Order 66 was the most important stroke in the Sith masterpiece known as the Grand Plan. This brutal execution of the Jedi was the result of 1,000 years of continuous Sith planning, which they did from the shadows. In one fell swoop, the mighty Jedi Order was reduced to just a handful of surviving members. But grand conspiracies like Order 66 involved too many people to stay truly secret for a long time. The inhibitor chips that every clone trooper had implanted in their head was just waiting to be discovered by someone. Darth Sidious was always a huge risk taker, and trusting that no one would find out about the inhibitor chips inside the clones' brains was probably one of the greatest risks he's ever taken. In today's video, we're going to take a look at how the enemies of the Sith could have stopped Order 66. In the last year of the war, CT-5385 Tup, a trooper in the 501st Legion, began experiencing severe headaches during an operation on Ringo Vinda. His symptoms would progressively get worse, and during one firefight, he falls into a trance and ends up shooting Jedi General Tiplar in the back of the dome piece. Tup would eventually be sent back to Kamino, where the inhibitor chip would be discovered by fellow 501st Trooper 5s. Palpatine would use his resources to silence 5s and keep the inhibitor chip program a secret. But 5s was able to spread information about the chip to a few key individuals, including Captain Rex and Anakin Skywalker. How much these two individuals believed 5s is a whole nother discussion, but at least in our scenario, this is the moment where the Jedi figure out that the inhibitor chips are in fact a real thing and that they're just a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. So how do inhibitor chips work? Well, every clone trooper is implanted with one when they're still an embryo, which is actually kind of crazy if you think about it. These chips were supposedly designed to make the clones a lot less aggressive and better at following orders. This was the lie at least being told to scientists and medics who uncovered the existence of these chips in the clones' brains. We're not 100% sure how the inhibitor chips work, but here's what we do know about them. These were biological chips that were made out of genetically altered cells, so that when detected, doctors usually believed that they were just tumors and not some kind of device. When Tup had his biopsy done, his inhibitor chip looked like it was a decaying mass of cells. My theory on how these chips worked is that they hijacked the brain signals of the host and created neural pathways that were associated with one specific behavior, which in this case was killing the Jedi. This is why every clone claims to have the same exact nightmare over and over again. When Tup has his chip removed right before he dies, he seems calm and relieved, and he mentions how the nightmares are finally over.
Oh, the nightmare. I'm free.
The fact that these inhibitor chips are biological and use chemicals to communicate with the host means that they are relatively independent from some kind of central control system. This means these chips won't be as easy to stop as, say, I don't know, a droid army which had a central control system. These chips were basically plug and forget, and so the only way you could stop them was to go up to each clone and remove them physically. Now, we've seen these type of inhibitor chip surgeries being carried out in the Clone Wars, and you do need proper facilities and droids to do this because of the chip's proximity to the brain. This kind of procedure would be extremely difficult to scale up to the entire Grand Army of the Republic because Palpatine would simply just find out immediately and then launch Order 66. In theory, a virus or bacteria could be created that targeted just the inhibitor chip cells, or you could even create an anti-tumor radiation treatment, like with what you have with cancer. If you place the cure in a pill or a shot or even in a radiation gun, it would make the procedure much faster to carry out, which is crucial here. The Jedi Order is actually well positioned to find this type of cure. They have an entire medical hospital within their Jedi temple, and their main focus is to basically research how the Force can further aid medicine. It is even technically possible that the Jedi could train themselves to remove the inhibitor chips using the Force. Now, we have to be careful here because it is possible that these inhibitor chips have a failsafe inside of them, which is triggered when someone tries to either remove or destroy the chip. We have to remember, because these chips are located in a clone's brain, a lot of damage could be done if you don't do the right procedure. As you can see, Tup dies pretty shortly after his chip is removed, but we're not really sure if that's because of the chip's removal or because the chip malfunctioned and started decaying inside of his brain. Ultimately, surgery is the only thing that has been tested to work with these clones. All these other things I mentioned are theoretical and could definitely kill a clone or create some terrible side effects. It will ultimately be up to the Jedi Service Corps, specifically the Medical Corps, to streamline and figure out how to make the surgery process even faster and easier to do so that even an untrained clone trooper would be able to do it. Preferably if he had some kind of device you could, just stick in the head or something like that. See? Even if you don't get selected by a Jedi Knight to become a Padawan and you join the Service Corps, you can still have a meaningful career. So finding a cure is going to be pretty difficult, but making sure all of the Jedi and the clones are on the same page is going to be next to impossible, especially if you want to do this without Palpatine figuring out. Now, informing the Jedi and keeping them on the same page will actually be relatively easy. Luckily, the Jedi are already a pretty secretive organization, and they really do trust each other. They're very insulated from the wider galaxy. They also have their own methods of communication that are basically encrypted and not easy to access by outside parties. Messages can be sent via the Jedi Beacon, warning all Jedi Knights and Masters about the situation going on. Further instructions can be sent to all of these Jedi to tell them how they should behave around their clones and how they could potentially remove these chips from their brains. If the Jedi were to recall all of their members from the front line, for instance, Palpatine might suspect that something was going on. And so the Jedi might have to take a page out of the Sith playbook and, launch a false flag attack to cover what exactly they're really trying to do. This actually might not be that difficult, especially in the last year during the Outer Rim siege period when the Jedi were already isolated in the Outer Rim separatist strongholds. Ironically, this isolation was first orchestrated by Palpatine. He believed that if the Jedi were just by themselves, it would be a lot easier to pick them off one by one. This isolation, on the other hand, means that the Jedi would have a relatively easy time blacking out all communications from the center of the galaxy to these Outer Rim territories. The entire galaxy was connected via a HoloNet grid, which allowed for faster than speed communication. These messages would travel through the same dimension that ships go through when in hyperspace. All the Jedi really have to do to cut off the Outer Rim from the core is to remove the HoloNet relay stations that basically control all the information going back and forth. Cut off from the High Command, the Jedi in the theater automatically become the highest ranking individuals. They could then call a meeting with all senior leadership and medical personnel under their command and explain to them the situation. From what we can tell, most clones, when they figure out what the inhibitor chips are actually designed for, will be horrified and immediately want that thing out of their heads. Once the medical staff have their chips removed, the Jedi commanders can then issue an order for the rest of the clones to report for surgery, unit by unit. You can tell the clones what's going on beforehand, you can tell them afterwards, you can lie to them and not tell them anything at all. It doesn't really matter because, the clones are very docile and they'll listen to you no matter what, unless, Order 66 gets carried out. If you're based on a ship, it's even easier. Just tell the clones they're reporting for their regularly scheduled checkups and getting some new vaccines or something. Realistically, the Jedi should be able to convert several battalions and legions to their side, or at least remove the inhibitor chips from their brains. This will at least give the Jedi a chance in the upcoming civil war that will most likely emerge. Because once Palpatine figures out there's been a huge communication blackout in the Outer Rim and then he finds out that the inhibitor chips are removed, well, he'll probably order Order 66. Now, the Jedi will have to fight in the Civil War against the other clone troopers, and you'll see clones killing clones, but one of the best strategies that the Jedi could do is create propaganda pamphlets that explains to the clones on the other side how to get rid of these inhibitor chips and how to break free from the Sith servitude. At the same time, they can make a better planned attempt to take out Palpatine from the leadership position. I can even see several hardened Outer Rim legions assaulting Coruscant and attacking the more loyal but less experienced Coruscant Guard. Perhaps the pro-Jedi forces could even create some kind of contraption that you can use in the field to remove these inhibitor chips. Count Dooku might even take this opportunity to distance himself from Palpatine and start his own true rebellion against his master. Either way, it would greatly complicate things. Now, there is one other way to fight Order 66, and that's by using the inhibitor chips to carry out a different order, because in Legends there are actually 150 different contingency orders. These are designed to make sure that Order 66 doesn't stand out, and a lot of these orders involve the removal of the Supreme Chancellor because he is unfit for leadership. Well, let me know in the comment section below if you have any other strategies that could be used to help stop Order 66. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,